Here in studio with State Representative Joan Meschino of Hull. Thanks so much for joining us today. Looking very festive and Christmassy.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's delightful to be here. And let me just begin by wishing everyone a very happy holidays.
Very nice. Now, this has been, with your regular visits here, you've been talking a lot about some of the issues that have been ongoing. I'd like to kind of catch up on a few of those things as we get towards the end of the calendar year. But one thing I saw that I thought was very interesting, and I think a lot of people might be interested, especially women, is the Plymouth County Commission on the status of women. They're actually having a listening session, time and place, and what they're looking for.
Oh, yes. So they are looking for just people who, elected officials or on the local level or, any regular person who has made observations. It's really about hearing how women and children, but how women are faring in our communities, in our economy. And this is the kind of listening session where they really do want to hear from just regular people, from local elected officials, from all the nonprofits, on the work that you're doing and the issues that you're seeing that are challenging for women right now. This is going to drive their agenda and their priorities, and it's especially important right now because, as you know, we're all coming into the end of the formal session, and we're all reelected. We'll all get sworn in January, and now's the time to really be thinking about what is the agenda. And it can both be legislative, it can be regulatory, it can be economic, it can be on the local level, but this is really now a great time to step up. So everybody, it's going to be on December 10th, which is a Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. at Massasoit Community College in the Student Center in Brockton. And let's just pause and say thank you to Massasoit for opening their doors for this important activity.
Absolutely. And just when you were talking, I was thinking, so something as an example of one of the categories we talked about, something like that may even be somebody concerned about wage transparency in jobs for women. I know that's always been an ongoing issue, something that I remember talking about with Josh Cutler.
Oh, absolutely. And we've taken some steps around wage transparency. So, for example, Mass Legislature just passed a bill this year around disclosure. So you have to put out, if you're hiring, the job description and the salary range so that women can really advocate for themselves. Don't forget, we step out of the workforce for lots of different reasons. Taking care of your children, taking care of aging parents. There's a lot of reasons why women step away. And so we're just trying to keep them to make sure that we're earning at the same level and we have the same opportunities as the fellas.
That's great. So that's Tuesday, December 10th, 6 to 8, the Student Center at Massasoit in Brockton. I think a lot of people would be interested in that. I saw that you were also a guest recently at the Talking Information Center, or TIC, at their Volunteer Appreciation Night. There was a big turnout, and you and a number of other local legislators actually turned out to support that. So I want to say thank you.
Oh my gosh, Jacqueline's doing such a terrific job, and really talk about an organization that is really meeting people where they're at. That's definitely the work at TIC. And in fact, I think we're hoping that we'll schedule a little time for me and my staff to come down and volunteer ourselves. And they're always looking for volunteers.
That's right.
So what a great thing to do for the holidays. What a great thing to do with your, if you're a company and you want to look for opportunities to do together. I just encourage you because it's actually harder than you think.
It is. Remember, they're a radio reading service for the blind, print handicapped, and low vision. You can always call them at 781-834-4400. Now, this year, some of the issues that we've been talking about ongoing, we were talking about use of campaign funds. And one of the things, again, that might affect women was being able to use or not use some of that money for childcare so people could go out and campaign. Some progress on that.
Oh, we passed it. We were finally able to, after all that work, get that into the Economic Development Bond Bill that just got passed, $4 billion. A lot of great stuff in there. We've talked about that in the past as well. But this is just a small piece, and it really helps break down the economic barriers for parents, but mostly women, running for office. So whether it's at the local level for school committee or state or whatever, it really is meant to just give candidates the ability to use their campaign funds as an authorized expense on something that they need to help them campaign. So it's a really great opportunity.
Now, what about ferries? I know that also is something, and people were worried, are we going to have ferries, not have ferries? We're going to have ferries.
We're going to have ferries. And it's an important topic right now because everyone's been talking about how we're funding the MBTA. And, that's such a huge economic driver, even for us out on the South Shore and down into the South Coast. So we really do need to pay attention to this. But we finally convinced the MBTA that ferries are an important piece of that water transportation. And so what they're doing is they're actually making it part of their work plan, making it part of their operational budget. And they've hired a terrific fellow, Dave Berry, to really put the foundation in place to build out a water transportation system so that both we can commute into the city and all of the fantastic amenities that are in there, whether it's healthcare or arts or sports, whatever, but also, more importantly for the South Shore, how we get tourists down here. This is a huge economic driver for us, and they're finally making the commitments. But we're going to have to be vigilant because the T, as we all know, is coming into what they call a fiscal cliff, a fiscal crisis, and we need to make sure that ferries stay on that table. And so you can count on your legislators on the South Shore and for me to keep our eye firmly fixed on that. They're not going anywhere. We are not letting that happen.
I have to say, just speaking anecdotally, years ago when I briefly worked in Boston for a while, I used to take the boat in from Hingham, and that was the only way to guarantee that I would get into the city on time.
Yes, reliable.
There was not one time when I was ever late because of weather, because of traffic, because I think one time there was a slowdown because there was ice, but that was it. Always on time. I love that.
Yep, it's fantastic. Very reliable.
Absolutely. Climate Bank. This is something you talked a little bit about.
Oh, yes, you remembered. So we had filed a bill around Climate Bank. We're always talking about how we do mitigation and how regular people can be part of the solution as we step up to meet these challenges. And it really is as simple as it's transformative, how we live our lives, what car we drive, things like that. But it's also about our buildings and how we heat our buildings, weatherization, things like that. And so it's just about making inexpensive money available to regular folks like you and me so that when we're renovating our houses, we can take advantage of all of the new technologies out there, both for efficiencies, right? If you're weatherizing, you're buying new windows, you're putting solar panels on, you're taking steps towards using less fossil fuels. But you're also taking steps towards just using less energy. And so it's, there's dual benefits there. And it's really meant to work in conjunction with organizations like Mass Save and things like that. So there's a lot of things out there. And the Healy administration actually took the first steps towards creating the Climate Bank. So we'll probably refile a different version of that bill to make sure that they go all the way and keep going with it. But what a great win to have them create that and get started on it. It's just really exciting.
I want to ask you about one more issue. I know we talked about this a lot because you understand the importance of, I know you got a favorable report on community media, which I think is at a crossroads, and they've really got to get more funding with the cutback on cable, since that's where the fees come from. Where does that stand?
So we got a favorable report, which is just to say that the committee, we were finally able to persuade the skeptics on the committee to see why this bill isn't so important. And of course, we understand it, right? This is about transparency in government. This is about, the hyper-local programming that we all love and that our PEG channels are doing so well. And we just want to make sure that there is a sustainable funding stream to support that activities. And I think it's going to be hugely important to our communities, around all the programming we love, the local stuff, the arts and the culture. But it's also about keeping an eye on what's the planning board doing, what's the select board doing, what's the school committee doing. People really want to know these things. They want to be able to do it. And we need to have the funding for municipal government to be able to provide those services. I mean, WATD does a great job, but how you can't be everywhere and you can't be that hyper-local, and the little weekly papers are gone. So Health Times is hanging in there. God love them.
They are good, and they are good. And I do remember the heyday of all the local papers, and there were some really good reporters, and those papers were packed with information. I hate to see the
Absolutely.
demise of it because I think
Yeah.
everybody suffers because of that.
Oh, I agree, and that's why I think this has become even more urgent. Is to make sure that we have that connectivity and that spotlight, shining a light on what we're doing on the local level, and just keeping people informed about how they can participate.
Absolutely.
I mean, that engagement, it's just worth gold. So. It doesn't work without public engagement.
I absolutely agree, and I'm sure it's something we'll be talking about again. Anything else you want to add before we sign off, Joan?
Oh, no, I just want to, so thank you for reelecting me. I am super excited about coming into next year. We will be working on things like keeping up the work on climate solutions. This time we're going to be looking at how we heat buildings, nature-based solutions, natural and working lands, which was the subject of a lot of things that are been going on in the Healy administration on the resilient coasts. We're going to be keeping a close eye and taking steps around preserving the affordable housing that we have right now, which is hugely important, has become an issue. And of course, that we will continue. It is always our delight and pleasure to be here to support our towns, but we will also always continue to provide excellent, top-notch constituent services. That is, in my mind, the bread and butter of our work, and it's always about taking care of people first.
Absolutely. Now, just tell people the best contact information for you, State Rep Joan Meschino.
617-722-2092. And I promise you, I do not answer that phone. A very wonderful young man, Harrison Bushnell, will answer that phone. But you're also welcome to send emails, joan.meschino@mahouse.gov. We really... If it crosses your mind, please call and ask, and if we can help, we will.
That's terrific. And again, that's State Representative Joan Meschino of Hull. I'm Christine James, 95.9 WATD.